Hello ladies and gents, welcome to another repair video. So first of all, before we get started, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for the warm comments and the support that people are showing me on YouTube. I didn't know whether or not to do repair videos because I didn't know if the market was kind of saturated, but I decided to do it anyway, and people have been showing me a lot of love lately, so I want to thank everyone for that first of all, and just to say that I really appreciate all of the support. So thank you. I'm going to keep doing my best to do more videos, and hopefully you enjoy them. So today I've got something a little bit different. So first of all, I apologise for the background noise. You can hear a fan in the background. That is this stupid ass cheap Xbox One power supply. I'm working on a console right now, but I'm installing a game so I can test, and I've actually started a video for that one, but I've just paused it and I thought I'd do another one while I'm in the process, so I've got a couple of videos to go out. And in this video today I'm going to be working on a Xbox One controller. So this controller is my own controller, but it's got a couple of problems. Now, number one on this is the vibration motors, so it doesn't quite feel right when it's vibrating. It feels like only one side is vibrating. This is my test controller that I use in the workshop. As you can see, it's pretty filthy. It's just my test controller. It's an Xbox One S 1708 model, but the main issue that this has is stick drift. And what stick drift means is when the analogs keep moving on their own. So this console, this analog here is fine, but this right analog is drifting all over the place. So I'm going to fix that today while I'm waiting on the software, the game that's in here to install. And I thought I'd do a video on it because it might be interesting for people to know how it's actually done. So I'll show you first of all what I actually mean. So let me just switch over to my desktop cam. And if I take a USB, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug the USB cable into the computer, and I'm going to connect this controller up as a controller to use on the computer. So you'll see this pop up in a second. Maybe not because it's already installed, never mind. So if I just type in CON, you'll see in the search that we've got something called Setup USB Game Controllers. So if we click on that, you'll see controller Xbox One for Windows. The status is OK, so everything checks out. But if we click on Properties, when we test the buttons, so if we test up, down, left, right, you can see those moving, so those are fine. The back left trigger is fine. The back right trigger is a little bit stiff, but it's fine, it does work. The back buttons, you'll see number 5 and 6 light up. The two middle buttons, you'll see 7 and 8 light up. A, B, X and Y, you'll see those light up, those are fine. And when we move the left analog, you'll see it goes around in a nice smooth circle, but then when we move this right analog, you'll see it jumps all over the place. You see it's I'm not touching that at the minute, and it's not quite gone back in yet. So it does work, but it's very unresponsive, and it shoots all over the place and just does random things. If we click the buttons, those work fine, but it's not quite as it should be. Now if I flick over to a console, so I'll use this console as an example. Okay, so let's load up the Xbox console companion, and then we can share the screen from the Xbox that's here onto my desktop. Okay, so now we can connect to the console. So click connect and then stream. And it's a little bit low quality, but that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the I'm going to take the controller and run the controller tester. So this is a little app on the Microsoft Store called Game Controller Tester. It's a really simple app. It allows us to test the controller, and if we test the buttons, so this is the exact same controller, and this vibration on this side, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it doesn't sound good. This one on this side, I'm not sure if you can hear that. That one you probably won't hear. It's nice and smooth. But the main concern, I mean, all of these buttons work. But the main concern is the vibration on the left hand side and the toggles. So you'll see the left analog works nice and smooth, no jumping about or nothing, but the right analog you'll see is jumping around. So it's kind of skipping. It's got a few dead zones, and you see when I loose it, it takes forever and a day to come back. So that's loosed at the minute, and it's not quite gone back into centre. So we'd have to push up for it to go back into centre, and even still, it just takes forever to go back to normal. So it's really annoying. You can't play a game like that. So we're going to show you how to fix that today. So I'm going to switch back over to my main camera. Okay, so let's try and sort out this stick drift. So like I said, it's this analog here which we are concerned about, and also the vibration on the left hand side. So to open these is really simple. We just need to pop these sides off, and we also need to get to a screw in the middle here underneath the sticker. What I like to do with that, this controller I think has actually been repaired before, or it's one that I've built up out of parts. But now, of course, as time goes on, especially being in the workshop, things get dirty. But like I said, what I like to do is I like to lift the sticker up instead of ripping it, because it just makes for a cleaner repair. And I'm using a TR9 screwdriver here because these screws have a little groove in the middle, so you need a screwdriver with a hole in the middle of it just to be able to remove these screws. You can remove them without by snapping the little pin on the screw, but it's a lot cleaner if you do it with the proper screwdriver. It's a TR9 in the iFixit kit. So 5 screws in total to get inside the controller. And that's going to allow us to access the guts. There we go. So let's just give you a brief overview of what we're looking at. So we have 2 boards on these controllers. We've got the power board, and then we've got the analogs and Bluetooth board. This is the motherboard, this is the daughter board. And we've got 4 vibration motors, so there's 2 up the top in the triggers, and there's 2 down the bottom, which is what you feel along the sides of the controller. Now obviously we're looking at this the opposite way, so the issue is with these controllers here on the right, because we're looking at this controller backwards, and also it's the analog on the left that is causing the issues. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to disassemble this controller a little bit and see if we can get this fixed. So we're going to need a T6H screwdriver for this, to remove these two screws on the daughter board. Just like so. Okay, so we should be just about up to temperature here, so I'm going to give my soldering iron tip a little clean. Just get rid of any gunk off there, any oxidisation. And we're just going to tap on these wires, on these solder joints. Same with this one. And they just pop right off. There we go. Same for the other side. Sweet. That's how it's done. And then we can just take them out, and then we can disconnect the antenna, and we can just pop this out. But first we need to remove the analog sticks, because one of them doesn't go through the this one here doesn't go through the board. This one would come out, but this one here wouldn't, so we have to remove at least that one. And you'll see here that we have the headphone jack as well. So the headphone jack is just pressure fit on these. So if your headphone jack ever plays up, this is how to change it. Just do exactly what we're doing now. You don't even need to desolder them, you can just lift it up and just pop a new headphone jack facing that way, and then it makes contact with these pins when you put it back on. Okay, so let's move the rest of that out of the way, because none of that is the issue at the moment. So the issue is with this analog stick here, so I'm just going to go ahead and outright change this. It's very rare that these ones actually play up compared to these ones, because this one is the one that's used most. But compared to this one doesn't really go as often. But it has in this case. So what we need to do first is we need to desolder this from the board. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. There's actually 3 ways that you can do this. You can use a soldering iron and some solder wick, which is my preferred method. You can use a soldering iron and a solder sucker, which, bear in mind, if you use a solder sucker, the chances are you're going to pull the pads. That's just how it is with these things. The chances are you're going to pull the pads and you're going to have to run jumper wires, which is really annoying and really time consuming. The third way is to use a heat gun and just let the analog drop out. But I prefer to just desolder them with some solder wick and a soldering iron, and then we can just pull the analog stick out. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it that way. So I'm going to take a little bit of solder wick, not a lot. So you'll notice I just cut a little bit off there as I need it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my soldering iron. Now this solder wick is goot wick and it's got flux already in it, so we don't need to add any flux to this. And all we're going to do is just cover each of these solder points, and you'll see it melts quite easy. But we're going to cover these solder points, and we're just going to tap the soldering iron onto the wick, and that's going to remove the solder. Now it might be recommended to use some tweezers to hold the solder wick, because it does get hot very quickly. So I'm going to do that. So I've got my nice clean tweezers. These have been in the ultrasonic. They get really sticky with flux and stuff, and it gets really annoying. It gets awkward to hold them, gets your hands really dirty. And these are really awkward as well. Simple reason being is that, you know, the toggles are there, so unless you've got a decent board holder, which I haven't got, you're going to really struggle to hold these. So I'm going to try and do this without the tweezers, just so I've got the extra hand. I'm just going to clean all of these joints up. And you'll see the solder sucking up nicely onto the solder wick. Okay, let's take some more wick. And they can get a little bit tricky sometimes. All you gotta do is just follow the pins with the solder wick and it will clean it all up eventually. Okay, we look good there. So now this should just pop right out. You need to give it a little bit of a wiggle, but it will come out. So being careful, of course, not to snap the board. And there we go. So that's the old toggle out. Now we need to get a replacement. So I'm going to take one, and you can buy these on eBay for around about £2.50 for a set of them, so for 2 of them. But I'm going to take one off a donor board. And the reason I'm taking one from a donor board is just because I'm cheap, and what's the point in buying them if I've got them lying around? So I'm going to take one off a donor board. So I'm going to take some more wick. I'm going to get rid of that bit. So again, same process. I'm just going to prevent any damage to the actual toggle, just by doing it this way. And what you could do to make your life easier is you could add some flux. So you could add a bit of flux to it, and you could also add some leaded solder. And the leaded solder is going to get sucked up a lot easier than the lead-free solder. So if you add some lead solder there, and it sounds kind of counterproductive, but it's not. So even though you're adding solder, it's going to suck it up a lot easier on the wick. So once you've added some solder, you'll see that sucks up a lot easier. I'm not going to cut any more off, just for that last couple of pins. Make sure it's nice and clean, and then we should just be able to pop this off. There we go. So that's the donor board, and now why was that stayed on there? Oh damn it, I forgot to do these ones. So that there is actually the button that we press and click down. There's a mechanism here at the side, and it pushes down on the button and clicks the button, and that's what you press when you push the buttons in. Now because I'm an idiot, I completely forgot to remove those last 2 pads on there. So let's do that now. There we go. So that button's going to drop out of there now. There we go, it dropped out. Okay, so now we're ready to put the new one on, and there's only one way that this can fit. You'll see that there's 2 pins further apart here, and they go at the top of the board. But they go at the top of the board, and then we should just be able to drop that in there like so. And then all we need to do is solder the back legs. So there's a few legs to solder, but it's not going to take long at all. So let's add some flux to the area, and move that out of the way. I'll pop that back on afterwards. So now let's take the soldering iron. Just make sure that's pushed all the way in first, which it is. And I'm just going to tap each of these pins with a bit of solder. And I'm going to let the heat of the iron do all of the work. There we go. And once we've cleaned this up, so I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush, which is going to give the board a clean. Same with this side. Good. And you'll see we have some very nice, very shiny, clean solder joints. Letting the iron do all the work. No problems at all soldering those. Nice round balls. So yeah, that should be all that needs to sort out that analog drift. We shouldn't have any more issues with that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this back together. So we're going to take a headphone jack, and I will warn you as well that these headphone jacks, the 1708 models are different to the 1697 models. They will not fit in each other, so you need to make sure if you do replace the headphone jack that you get the right one. It's got to be for the 1708 model, because it just won't fit. It will make a connection, but it just won't fit properly. Okay, so I've got myself a shield here. It's not the original one because the original one's got flux all over it. I've got myself a shield there. It's kind of like Captain tape, this is. I've got myself a shield. Pop that on and then pop this antenna back on, just like so. Pop that into its groove. Cool. And then we're ready to just screw this back together. There we go. So that's screwed back in. So now let's resolder the wires to the vibration motors. So the vibration motors, I don't think polarity actually matters, but there are markings on the board, plus and minus for the red and black. Plus obviously goes on the red, goes to the red, and minus goes to the black for ground. I don't think polarity does matter, but it shouldn't be an issue anyway, because you can see markings on the board. Okay, so I'm just going to dab these on. And what I'm going to do now is just add a tiny dabble of flux just to smooth out those joints. Same with that side. Give that a clean. And then the same for this side here. Give this a clean. And we are done. So now that that's been changed, we can pop the analogues back on. Let's pop the front fascia back on. Pop that back on. Making sure that we get these battery terminals in the correct location. And you might feel that this is kind of stuck. You can see that where there's a big gap in it. So the reason for that is just because it gets stuck on the toggles, on the triggers. So all we do for that is just push them down, and they'll go into place, and it'll sit there nicely where it's meant to be. Okay, so we're going to swap screwdrivers again now, back to the T9. And then we can pop the side grips back on. So these just clip back on. Push that sticker back down, and it looks like no one's touched it. Pop in some batteries. And now that's on. So let's head back over to the computer, and we can use the same software again just to test it and just see what's happening with it now, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so let's go back to the Xbox application, and this is the same controller, still synced up to the console. Let's connect to the Xbox. And we can see that's working. Start testing. Okay, so that left side still feels a bit rough. We could change the analog. That right side's fine. Let's see how this looks now. That's a lot smoother, and you see it jumps straight back in where it should be. No delays at all. Everything working as it should. No more stick drift. So that's cool. Click works. And this controller is now fully working. So that vibration on the one side is still a bit annoying, so we could opt to change that as well. It wouldn't take very long to do. So back over to the blue mat, and we're just going to disconnect. We're just going to remove the back once more. So because you've seen how it's done now, I can just skip straight through. Take the back off, take the front off, slide the back off, and this vibration motor here is what we're going to change. So we're going to take this off. Let's desolder this one, and let's take ourselves another one. So you'll notice that this one is a different size to this one. Actually, yeah, let's put the proper one back on, shall we? No, you know what? Let's put the smaller one on so we can have a nice smoother vibration. You don't really need to use flux for this, so we'll just straighten those wires out. And just dab those onto there like so, and that's it. That's how easy it is to change those. Let's pop this back together, and once again it's stuck, so we just press the buttons down. That will put it into place. Let's pop the front on. And screw it back down. Cool. Pop that sticker back down once more. Batteries in. Side grips on. And done. It really is that simple. So let's pop back over to the console again once more. And let's turn the controller on. And now let's test the vibrations and things. So analogues are both working as they should. And still a little bit loud, but it's certainly a lot smoother. Now we could opt to buy some new ones, but I'm not going to bother doing that. There's absolutely no point at all. That's absolutely fine, at least it's not as rough now. And that is on 100% as well. But everything else is working, there's no more stick drift, and the initial problem is fully fixed. And it really is that simple. So I hope you found this video helpful. This was just a really simple video showing you how to fix the stick drift on the analogues. It's exactly the same for this analogue here as well. If you get the same problem, which is more common than this one, it's exactly the same process, just with the different analog stick. But you can use the game controller tester that I showed you in the video to test your analogues and just see how they're actually performing. But I hope you found this helpful. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. As always, leave a like on the video if you liked it. Please subscribe. Around 95% of my viewers do not subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit that 5,000 mark, and I'm working really hard to do so. So if you could subscribe, that would be a big help for the channel, and I would really appreciate it. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.